All right, AP's Warriors. Let's get you ready for that big AP exam in May.
Yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into energy flow in ecosystems.
Oh, this is a good
It's
one.
a pretty fundamental concept.
Super important. And you can think of an ecosystem as bustling city,
Oh, I like that.
and energy is its currency.
Okay, so we're going to be tracing how that currency flows through the ecosystem,
That's right.
starting with the ultimate source, the sun.
And that's where our producers come
All
in.
right, all those lovely plants and algae.
Plants, algae, some bacteria.
Oh, yeah, can't forget about the bacteria.
The real MVPs of the energy game,
Definitely.
capturing sunlight and converting it into usable energy through photosynthesis.
It's a lot more than just breathing in CO2 and breathing out oxygen.
It's not just breathing right, it's a
Yeah.
complex chemical process.
It's like they're running these sophisticated factories,
Exactly.
turning light energy into chemical energy stored in those sugars.
Precisely. And just like we rely on the energy from food,
Right.
those sugars power everything a plant does.
Growing, reproducing, defending itself.
It's fuel for life.
Photosynthesis is like making a deposit into the ecosystem's bank account.
And then we have cellular respiration,
The withdrawal,
the withdrawal.
taking that energy out.
Organisms use oxygen to break down those sugars,
Right.
release the stored energy to power their own life functions.
It's the flip side of photosynthesis.
It is.
So what about organisms that live in environments without much oxygen?
Good point.
They need energy too.
They utilize a process called anaerobic respiration,
Interesting.
which doesn't rely on oxygen.
Makes sense.
It's less efficient,
Okay.
but it gets the job done,
A clever adaptation.
for sure.
So we've got our energy factories churning out fuel.
Okay.
How do we measure how much energy an ecosystem is actually producing?
That's where we introduce this concept of primary productivity,
Okay.
the rate at which ecosystems generate energy. And we have two key measurements here:
Okay, let's hear it.
gross primary productivity, or GPP,
Oh, GB.
which is the total energy captured by producers,
Okay.
and net primary productivity, or NPP.
MVP.
I think of GPP as like the total energy earned, and NPP is like the take-home pay
I like that.
after the producers have used some of it for their own respiration.
Okay, so NPP equals GPP minus respiration by producers.
That's our equation.
Write that down, folks. NPP equals GPP minus R.
You got it.
But how do scientists actually figure out these numbers?
Oh, great question.
Do they go around measuring every single calorie a plant produces?
Not quite.
Okay.
They have clever methods for tracking CO2 uptake during photosynthesis,
Wow.
or they measure changes in biomass,
Okay.
which is the total mass of living matter in an area.
So like a snapshot of how much plant material is present at a certain time.
Yes, and that's called standing crop.
Standing crop.
You're on fire today.
So we've got our producers diligently capturing sunlight.
Okay.
But here's something that's always bugged me.
Okay.
If plants are these amazing energy factories, why isn't all that sunlight converted into usable energy?
That's a great observation.
It seems kind of wasteful.
Photosynthesis isn't as efficient as we might think.
How inefficient are we talking?
Only about 25 to 50% of GPP actually becomes NPP.
Seriously, that's a lot of missed opportunity.
It is.
What's the reason for all that wasted sunlight?
Well, there are a few factors at play.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, not all wavelengths of light are equally usable for photosynthesis.
So it's not just about the amount of sunlight, but also the quality of light.
Exactly.
Okay,
And then there's the fact that energy conversions are never 100% efficient.
makes sense.
Some energy is inevitably lost as heat during the process.
Just like your computer gets warm when it's running.
Precisely.
Okay.
And finally, environmental factors can throw a wrench in the works too.
Such as?
Things like water availability and temperature play a crucial role.
Yeah, think about how dense a forest canopy can get.
Right.
Not every leaf is going to be getting optimal sunlight.
Right. And even then, not all of the light that hits a leaf is actually used for photosynthesis.
And in aquatic ecosystems, light penetration becomes a critical factor
Actually.
because water absorbs light.
It does.
The deeper you go, the less sunlight there is.
That's right.
So different types of algae have adapted to use different wavelengths of light depending on their depth.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal example of adaptation through natural selection.
Amazing.
Different algae have evolved to thrive in those different light conditions.
This is mind-blowing.
It is pretty cool.
Okay, one last question.
Go for it.
Why are some ecosystems teeming with life
Okay.
while others seem almost barren? What makes some ecosystems more productive than others?
That's a fantastic question.
Lay on me.
That leads us to the concept of ecosystem productivity.
Okay.
Remember NPP, that take-home pay we talked about?
Yeah, NPP equals GPP minus R.
Exactly.
Got it.
That varies greatly across the planet.
So it's not just about how much sunshine an area gets.
Right. It's more than that.
Okay.
Temperature is a major player.
All right. How...
Generally, warmer temperatures mean faster metabolic rates and more plant growth, leading to higher NPP.
So tropical rainforests are like the productivity powerhouses.
They are definitely up there.
With all that warmth and humidity.
But water availability is also crucial.
Right. Think about a lush rainforest compared to a dry desert.
Exactly.
Photosynthesis needs water.
It does.
So drier ecosystems are going to be less productive.
Makes sense.
And nutrients are also important.
Absolutely.
Just like we need a balanced diet. Plants need their nutrients.
Plants need essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus to thrive.
If the soil is lacking in those nutrients, plant growth and NPP is going to be limited.
For sure.
It's like baking a cake.
I love this analogy.
You need the right ingredients and the right oven temperature.
Yes.
For a delicious outcome.
That's a great analogy.
And just like there's a wide array of cakes, there's incredible diversity in ecosystem productivity across the globe.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This is all starting to click now.
I'm glad.
We've got our energy factories.
Yes.
Our measures of productivity.
Okay.
And we're starting to understand why some ecosystems are more productive than others.
Awesome.
It's all about the energy.
It is. So we've talked about how energy enters an ecosystem and those factors that influence productivity, but now let's follow that energy as it travels.
You mean like who's eating who?
Exactly.
The whole predator-prey dynamic.
Exactly. Let's delve into food webs and trophic levels.
Okay.
Remember those pyramids from apes?
Okay. I remember something about producers and consumers and decomposers.
Yes.
But it would be great to refresh my memory.
Of course. So those categories are organized into trophic levels.
Right.
Essentially describing an organism's position in the food chain. Our producers like plants form the base of the food web.
Right. Trophic level 1.
Trophic level 1. They're the ones bringing in the energy from the sun.
Right. So then our primary consumers, the herbivores, come next.
Exactly.
They munch on those plants.
They do trophic level 2.
Trophic level 2.
Think about deer grazing in a meadow or a caterpillar munching on a leaf.
Okay. I can picture it.
And then we move up to the carnivores.
The meat eaters.
The meat eaters that feast on the herbivores.
Okay.
Those are our secondary consumers.
Right.
Sitting pretty at trophic level 3.
So a snake that snacks on a rabbit would be a secondary consumer.
You got it.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop there. We have tertiary consumers.
Okay.
Those predators that eat other carnivores,
right.
They occupy trophic level 4 or even higher.
So it can get pretty complex.
It can be quite a complex web.
Like a hawk snatching up that snake who ate the rabbit who was happily munching on clover.
Exactly.
It's like this fascinating chain reaction of energy transfer.
That's a great way to picture it.
And of course, we can't forget about the decomposers.
Oh, the unsung heroes.
Like fungi and bacteria that break down all that dead stuff and waste.
Yes, returning those essential nutrients to the soil.
They're like the ultimate recyclers, making sure nothing goes to waste.
Absolutely. They play a crucial role in closing that loop.
Yeah.
Keeping those energy and nutrients flowing.
So it's like a beautifully interconnected system.
It is. But here's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Only about 10% of the energy from one trophic level is transferred to the next.
Wait, only 10%? What happens to the other 90%?
That's a fantastic question.
It seems like a lot of energy is going missing.
It's a key concept to understanding how energy flows through an ecosystem.
Okay.
A large portion of that energy is lost as heat during metabolism,
Yeah.
or used for essential life processes like movement and reproduction.
So an organism is using a lot of its own energy just to survive.
Exactly. And on top of that, not all of the energy stored in an organism is actually eaten by the next trophic level.
Right. Think about bones and fur.
Exactly. Those parts that aren't usually on the menu.
Makes sense.
So it's like a leaky bucket with energy spilling out at each step along the way.
I like that.
And because of this energy loss, food chains tend to be relatively short. There simply isn't enough energy to support a massive number of trophic levels.
Ah, that's why there are way more plants than top predators in any ecosystem.
Exactly.
It all comes down to that available energy.
Exactly. This concept is often visualized as an energy pyramid,
right,
with the producers at the base and each level getting smaller as you go up.
Okay.
You can clearly see how energy decreases as you move towards those apex predators.
Okay. This is starting to make so much more sense now.
Good.
We've traced energy from the sun through the producers and up the food web.
We have.
But what happens to that energy ultimately? Does it just vanish?
Well, we know that energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can change forms.
Right.
And that's where this concept of entropy comes into play.
Entropy. Okay, I vaguely remember that from physics class.
It can be a tricky concept.
It always seemed kind of mysterious.
It is a tricky concept. Essentially, entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness in a system.
Okay.
Whenever energy is transformed, some of it is lost as unusable heat, which increases the entropy of the universe.
So even though energy isn't destroyed, it's constantly becoming less useful over time.
A perfect way to put it.
Kind of like running down a battery.
Think about a campfire.
Okay.
You burn wood, releasing heat and light.
Right.
But you can't capture all that energy to do useful work. Some of it escapes as heat that dissipates into the surroundings.
Okay, I'm starting to get a grasp on this.
Good.
So even though energy is continuously flowing through ecosystems, it's ultimately a one-way street.
Absolutely.
Until next time, AP's warriors keep studying hard.